Before we start this video, a large thank you to Paper, a name I unfortunately cannot pronounce. Thank you for the support, my friend. Odadul, Brandon, Tom, Joseph, Ivan, Andrew, Average Nerd, Hans, and Elmer for their support on Patreon. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Hello everybody, I hope you all had a good weekend. Today we're going to finish our take blocked damage effect and our take damage effect character effects. We're going to make it so we plug them in and they work just like the game worked before, now with a lot more modularity and a lot more freedom. So let's open up our take damage and take block damage effects. Let's copy the character causing damage and the damage variables from the take damage effect. Let's also copy the damage animation variable and give it a header. Let's rename damage animation to block animation. And this is again on the take blocked damage effect script. I'm just going to add a header here, like I said, so it's neat. And also we can copy this whole damage section and paste it again and change it from damage to final damage. So basically the original damage will be the damage that is basically plugged into the effect. So if a sword has 27 physical damage, that's what it's going to be. The final damage is the damage after all calculations have been added up, like the character's blocking, absorption, and their armor, etc., etc. All right, so let's also go down here and, well, we can actually jump back to the take damage effects and we can copy a couple more things. Let's set these to private, these final damage variables, because we're not going to need those public. And let's go over to the take damage effect again. On process effect, we can copy everything here because we're just going to take what we need. So let's call override process effect. Let's delete the base process effect and paste this, and we can keep the is dead and is invulnerable checks. We can keep the calculate damage. We can remove the check where direction the damage came from. We can keep the play damage animation. Let's change that to play block animation. We can keep play sound effects. Let's change that to play block effects. We can get rid of the play blood splatter, and we can keep the assign new AI targets. All right, let's start writing some actual functionality. This should go a bit quicker than last time. Let's add a calculate stamina damage function here too, pass a character, because if our character is out of stamina when they attempt to block, or if they run out of stamina during the block, we play a guard break. All right, so let's also make a private void for calculate damage. Let's make it require a character manager, and let's start plugging in some logic here. So what do we need here? Well, luckily we already have everything we need. We just need to search for the right script that it's on, and it should be on the character stat manager. We scroll down here. We can see a take damage after block. Yes, and this is true. So let's copy everything inside of here. And then let's delete this function so it doesn't exist anymore. That means wherever is now calling that is going to get an error, and that's good because then we know where to plug in our new effect. Let's paste that in the calculate damage. Let's run a check right here to see if the character causing damage is not null. And if they're not null, we're going to apply modifiers to the base damage, depending on if they have any or not. And we're going to change enemy character damaging me to character causing damage because that's the name of our variable. So we can just copy this and paste this right here. And wherever you see an error now, it is because we need to call our character, as in the character being damaged, dot character stats manager. The same thing that we did on the take damage effect in the last video. All right, so let's say character dot character stats manager dot, and then just do the same thing with each of these errors, and then they'll go away. All right, looks good. And let's do it down here as well for the fire and physical armor absorption, or the absorption modifier rather. And where it says enemy character damaging me, we can delete this. We're not checking for a fully charged attack here. We're going to change where that is called from, so don't worry about that right now. I'm going to delete the debug.log because we don't need it, and I'm just going to make sure this is all good. Yes, okay, and we can delete the play blocking noise because we're doing that on its own function. All right, that looks good at first glance. Let's move on. We can actually get rid of the comment here. And actually, we don't need these final damage variables. Don't know why I put those there. My mind was going somewhere else, but we don't need those at all. You can delete those. Let's get rid of this comment for calculate damage because now we have it added into the script. And let's make the calculate stamina damage function. We'll do all these in the order that I have them in right now. You want stamina damage to come before the play block animation. Basically, you want to calculate your damages first. And because at the very end, we're going to check if we have 0 stamina. And if we don't, we're going to play a guard break unless you're dead. So let's make a float stamina damage absorption is equal to Then we're going to say stamina damage. I don't think we have a variable for that yet. We do not, so let's make it. That's going to be a float. Now, for the sake of the video series, I'm going to make the stamina damage the same as the poise damage. In Nephilim, I have it different. Each weapon, depending on the attack, has their own stamina damage value. You can set that up, but it's the same thing as setting up a modifier for something like physical damage. So since I've already covered that, I won't do it again. We're going to say float stamina damage absorption is equal to stamina damage times, and we check the blocking stability rating of the weapon we're blocking with. And then we're going to say float stamina damage after absorptions have been calculated is equal to stamina damage minus stamina damage absorption. Now, if you want me to cover how to give specific stamina damage for specific attacks again, let me know and I can do a video on it. It's the same thing though as doing specific physical damage depending on attacks, or fire damage depending on light attack or heavy attack, etc. Then we're going to say character.characterstatsmanager.current stamina minus equals stamina damage after absorption, and then remove the comment here and you're good to go. All right, next let's handle the play blocking animation. I'm going to change that to decide blocking animation because we're not actually playing the animation from there. We're just choosing what it's going to be. And we're going to say based on poise damage. So we can save a lot of time here by copying most of the logic from our take damage scripts. So we're going to do that momentarily. This is very straightforward. It's going to be handled identical to how we decide a damage animation. Basically, the higher the poise, the heavier the block animation that you're going to play is. So if something has a lot of poise damage, you're going to play a heavy block animation. All right, so let's actually make a variable for poise damage because we don't have one on this effect. We'll initialize that at 0, beginning, and then we'll come down here, and this is pretty straightforward. We're going to say if character dot is two-handing weapon, then we're going to play a two-handed, or if he's not two-handing weapon, sorry, we're going to play a one-handed or off-handed blocking animation because in this project you can only two-hand your right weapon. So if we're not two-handing, it must be our off-hand we're blocking with, and if we are two-handing, it must be our right hand we are blocking with. So because of that, we can then say if poise damage is less than or equal to, and we can put our numbers. And actually, I'm just going to copy and paste all the poise damage values from the take damage script because it's just right here, so I might as well take them. So where did I put those? Let me see, one sec. Nope, not here. Okay, here we go. So under choose damage animation forward or backward, left or right, just copy everything inside there. And then come back to the take block damage and paste them inside here. We're just using this for the poise values. And instead of damage animation, let's change this to block animation because that's what we have in the script. And instead of getting it from a random list, because the block animations will always be the same, unless you want to make a list for your block animations to make it random, you can do that as well. We're just going to simply assign a block animation here using a string value. So whatever you want to place here. Again, these poise values are pretty arbitrary. I encourage you to make your own. These are just this way for the sake of the video, but I'm just going to set it so 0 to 24 is going to be a ping, and then we'll do light, and then medium, and then heavy. Obviously, you need multiple blocking animations for this. So if you don't have them, you can just assign the same blocking animation for everything if you want until you get some. Or if you don't care to have differing intensities in blocking animation, then you don't need to worry about this step at all, really. This is just to do it as Souls does it. I'm pretty sure they use poise as a magnitude to determine the blocking damage animation. I don't think there's a separate value for that. If I'm mistaken and someone knows otherwise, I'd like to hear it in the comment below. Again, paste it here in the two-handed section as well. Just place one-handed with two-handed. It does matter here because if you're two-handing a weapon, your blocking animations will be different than if you're one-handing a weapon. Okay, that looks good. Wonderful. Okay, so I'm just going to erase the comment here for, I'm going to create a function here for play block sound effects. And then I'm going to erase the comment afterwards. We're going to make that pass to character manager. Now, we're going to create a new function for this because we want a bit of randomness to this. So you could just make a function called play random block sound effect and then have a few predetermined block sound effects. What we're going to do is we're actually going to go to the character sound effect manager. And we're going to make a new function that you require to pass an array. And when we do this, we're going to pass an array of blocking noises from our weapon that we're using. And then from that array, we're going to pick a random sound effect and play it. And you can reuse this logic to basically always pick a random sound effect from an array of sounds. So the logic is still the same throughout. So let's go to the character sound effects manager. I'm going to make a public virtual void. And since we're going to keep this modular, I'm going to say play random sound effects. Just keep the naming convention the same. I will say sound fx from array. Let's make it require an array to work. We'll call this sound array. And this is very simple. It's like 2 lines of code. Basically, we want to make an integer for the index. So this is the number that we're going to play in the array. We'll make it equal to random.range 0 and then sound array.length. So it picks a random thing from the array. And then we say play sound effects and we pass the sound array that we gave. And then we play the index. So it just randomly picks something in the array and then it plays that sound effect. Very simple. Now we need to add blocking sound effects because I don't think we have them. That was definitely more of a polish element, so I definitely didn't include it. Yes, I didn't. So under here we have weapon whooshes. Let's add another audio clip array. Let's call this blocking noises. Excellent. Let's save that. And now you make sure you assign blocking noises to all of your weapons. Otherwise, you're going to get an error. If you don't want to get an error, if you just say the array, you can do a check to make sure the array count is greater than 0. And if not, return. I'm not going to do that, though, because all your weapons should have blocking noises. So then we're going to say play blocking sound effects. If character dot is two-handing a weapon, it must be our right weapon, else if it's our left weapon. So I'm going to say we are blocking with our handed weapon. Otherwise, if we're not two-handing, it must be our off-handed weapon. So we are blocking with our off brackets left-handed weapon. And now we could say character sound effects manager dot play random sound effects from array. And in the case of two-handing, we pass our character inventory manager dot right weapon dot blocking noises. That's the array of sounds. Otherwise, we copy and paste that and pass our left weapon dot blocking noises. Very simple, very straightforward. All right, and lastly, for this assign new AI targets, we can just literally copy that entirely from the take damage effect. Because if the character attempting to damage this character is not null, then that is our new target, and the logic stays the same for there. So that's good to go. And look how nice and neat and clean these two effects look. And they're so easy to understand. You break it down to its smaller parts, and there it is. So we're not quite done yet, though. We have to lastly check to see if this character is dead. And if they are dead, we don't want to play any blocking animation. We just want to play the death animation. Otherwise, we continue to check for their stamina. So I'm going to say if the character is dead, play dead 01, and they are interacting so they can't get out of that animation. If they are not dead, then we're going to do a stamina check after we've calculated our stamina damage, not before. Otherwise, this is entirely pointless. So we'll say if character.characterStatsManager.current stamina is less than or equal to 0, we know we are guard broken. So we want to say character.playTargetAnimation, or character manager, dot play target animation, and we want to play the guard break 01 animation, or whatever you've called it. Now, if you have an animation event on this animation, that makes it so your character can be reposted. No further action is needed. Otherwise, what you want to do is say character.canBeReposted is equal to true. And in some instances, just to be safe too, you want to make it so the character is no longer attacking. So you could say character.isAttacking is false, just turning off the flag that is, because it'll cancel the animation on its own. And you also can say character.soundEffectsManager, and if you have a special guard break sound effect that you have in the game, you can play it here. I'm just going to make a comment right now because, again, this logic is something we've covered numerous times, but if you guys want to insert it, there is the place to insert it, or at least that's where I would put it. Right below that, I'm just going to say, again, is blocking is equal to false because we want to disable our blocking here as well to make sure that no damage is absorbed after they've been guard broken. And then else down here, you can say play our blocking animation, basically. So if your stamina is not 0, then you've successfully blocked it. And you just want to play the target animation, pass the blocking animation, and then true for is interacting, so they're locking the animation. You can also say here as well to is attacking is equal to false if you want to, just to reset the attacking flag once they've went into a block. You probably don't need to, but just to be on the safe side. All right, so let's go over here and go to our damage collider scripts. So basically, this is where we're going to be adjusting everything. Basically, this is where we're calling our deal damage or deal blocked damage. So I'm pretty sure every damage collider derives from this one, or no, it does rather. So we can actually just change it there, and it should change everywhere else. But before we do that, actually, getting a little bit ahead of myself, we forgot to actually create 2 variables on our world character effects manager for our damage. See, we're doing this so we can just easily reference them from here, and we can instantiate a copy of them. So they're always stored here. So we can say take damage effect and take blocked damage effect, and we will put them right there as they are like that. We need to also create an asset menu name for these later and drag them in, but right now it won't give us an error if we try to instantiate them from there. So Let's go to our damage collider script where I was before. Let's scroll down here. Right where it says check for block, we're just going to erase these two variables for physical damage after block and fire damage after block. We're also going to go to the combat manager and delete this function called attempt block. So make sure you eradicate that from the base class. Let's go back to the damage collider again, and I think we should be good to start setting things up. Yeah, so delete enemy combat manager and enemy shield dot take damage after block. Now, what we're going to do, you can also delete this enemy stats manager here. That's enemy shield. We don't need that anymore either. So let's just erase that. So there's not much here. All we need is the two directional variables we have here and the dot value. And then over here, if we pass the check for the dot value, let's instantiate a take blocked damage effect by making a variable, and let's just say take block damage equals instantiate world character effects manager dot instance dot take blocked damage effect. And then we're going to assign the values. Pretty straightforward. Take block damage dot physical damage is equal to physical damage. And then we're going to say take blocked damage dot fire damage is equal to fire damage. And then we're going to say take block damage dot poise damage is equal to poise damage, and stamina damage is equal to poise damage, or whatever you want to basically call it as. We don't have poise damage here. Oh, it's called poise break. Yeah, I don't like that name, so I'm going to change that to poise damage. That makes more sense to me. Right click, rename, let's go and call this poise damage. I think this is the poise damage variable. We'll figure it out very quickly if it's not anyway, because we'll start seeing some weird stuff happen. So gonna rename that and we're good to go. Let's scroll back down here. So we'll say poise damage and then take blocked damage. Again, dot stamina damage is equal to poise damage. Again, you can make your stamina damage equal to whatever you want. You can make it equal to the remaining physical damage. I'm just gonna use poise damage for the sake of the video series. So let's go down here and say enemy manager dot character effects manager dot. We want to make a function called process effect instantly. And this is gonna be for one-time effects. So let's go ahead and open up our character effects manager. And all this function is going to require is an effect to process, and it's just going to simply process that effect one time. So this is perfect for one-shot effects like take damage, take block damage, reduce your stamina by a certain value, add your health by a certain value, whatever you want. So let's make the function. I'm going to call mine, as I said, process effect instantly. Going to put it right at the top. Going to make it require one character effect. And I'm just going to simply say inside the function, whatever you want to call it, I'm just going to call mine effect. We could say effect.tick effect, and we pass the character, as in the character that this effect is being displayed on or processed on, and that's it. So then back in the damage collider scripts, we say enemy manager.character effects manager.process effect instantly, and we pass this take block damage effect, and that is it. It is so much neater, and all the values are in one nice place. Much better. So you're gonna get some errors now. So right here, where this is a temp block on the player comment manager, because we deleted the base class version, delete that too and save the game. You might get one on the AI manager. I don't know. Let's check and see. Nope. Okay, so there was only an override for the player. Over here now on the damage collider script, also on deal damage, we also have to put in the same thing here. So delete this deal modified damage. Just delete all of this basically. And instead of calling a take block to damage, we're going to do the same thing here, but we're going to use our take damage effect that we made in the last video. And this is basically going to work nearly identically. We're going to say take damage effect is equal to instantiate world character effects manager dot instance dot take damage effect. And then we're going to say take damage effect dot physical damage is equal to the final physical damage. The reason why it's called final physical damage is because we're adjusting our damage based on light attacks or heavy attacks, if you remember that correctly. So that's why it is worded a bit differently here. And then from there, it goes to the take damage effect, and more calculations are applied. So do the same thing for your fire damage or whatever damage you have. Then take damage effect dot poise damage is equal to poise damage. And then you want to say take damage effect dot character causing damage will be equal to the character swinging this damage collider if you're on a melee damage collider, but this is the base damage collider, so we don't have that right now. Make sure you put that in though for the melee damage collider. And then right down below here, we can just simply say the same thing, which will be we need to have the enemy manager here. So go back up here and change that character stats manager to an enemy manager. Then from there, we can say enemy manager dot character manager. Why is that giving me grief? character effects manager, effects, no, okay. Whoops, I changed the variable name, not the variable type, so we're going to make that require a character manager. Then we say enemy manager dot character effects manager dot process effect instantly take damage effect, just like that. Okay, looks good. Now we can scroll up, and we have an error. I'm assuming that's because I just changed that variable type. So let's go over here. Yes, and we can just erase character stats manager and just keep enemy manager, and we're good. We can erase play blood splatter effects. That's handled in the script, but now we got to pass the contact point. So let's do that. We can erase, or let's go to deal damage first. We'll do one thing at a time. So we can come down here and say take damage effect dot contact point is equal to contact point, and then we can say take damage effect dot angle hit from is equal to angle hit from. So we gotta make these local variables on the damage collider. So let's just do that. We can go up here because you can see here we're making these just temporary variables right here. But let's actually just let's make them, or store them rather, up here. Let's make them, or make a vector3 for the contact point. And then let's make a float for the angle we've been hit from. And let's go down here then, and we can just delete the variable itself so it stores it here instead of creating a new local variable. Direction hit from, let's rename that to angle hit from. Or we can change this to direction hit from rather. Either or is fine. Looks good. We can get rid of this interrupt effect. That should happen automatically now. We can get rid of these comments for deal damage if you want to. We can get rid of these comments as well. I'm just going to clean this up so it looks a bit nicer. Again, a lot of this is just preference, so you feel free to comment wherever you want and keep what you want there. Now down here on the take damage effect, we can say take damage effect dot, what do we call that? Angle hit from is equal to direction hit from. See, I don't like that being different, so I'm going to rename this to angle hit from as well. I think angle hit from is a more appropriate name anyway. Okay, and we save it. Looks good. So much neater. Now we have an error. Let's go over here. Deal damage. That's because we need this to require a character manager, not a character stats manager. That's fine. Just delete the stats here, and this is on the melee weapon damage collider. And change this to enemy manager. Rename it. And scroll down here, and this looks fine, I do believe so. Yes, and we do the same thing here, identically. Delete the deal modified damage, and we're going to insert our new damage animation, or take damage character effect. So copy it entirely from the base class and paste it here. And we need to do this wherever we have, oh, that's giving us grief because we need to make this protected, not private. So go back to the base class and make these contact point and the angle hit from protected. So we can use those in deriving classes. So we need to go to all of our damage colliders now. And basically wherever we assigned damage before, we need to insert our new take damage effect, just like this. So let's go to this is the melee weapon damage collider. We've done the base class. I think we still have, let's just search and see what we have. Let's type in damage collider. Yeah, we have a ranged and a bomb and a spell. So let's just open all these up and we'll do them one at a time. All right, so on the spell damage collider, little fix here. Make sure you delete private void awake and override awake. We want to use the base awake too. So and then we add our rigid body here after we run the base awake. Okay, that's good. Now let's go to our on collision enter. You can see here we commented out in the last video our damage, so let's just literally copy all the damage logic here and paste it. The only difference is we're going to change final physical and final fire, just physical and fire. So inside here, if our spell target does not equal null, then we're going to say damage effect dot physical damage is equal to physical damage, damage effect dot fire damage is equal to fire damage, and then right in the last line here we run the damage effect on our spell targets. So we would simply say spell target dot character effects manager dot process effect instantly. And to do that, we need to make sure our spell target is of type character manager, not character stats manager. So delete the stats, save that, and make sure when you get, oh, I forgot to do that. Yes, when you get the variable itself, make sure it's a character stats manager. And then we're going to say spell target dot character stats manager dot team ID, checking for the team here to make sure it's not the same team. If it's not, then we're good to go. Save that. And now let's go to the ranged projectile damage collider. And again, identical logic here. We can actually delete the local variables because we're storing them in the base class. Delete the portion of the script that plays blood splatter and calculates damage. And then insert our nice take damage character effect. Why is this good? Oh, right. This is supposed to be angle hit from, not direction hit from. All right, looks good. Let's go over here now and copy this again from the base class and insert this right here. Again, you're going to need to change the final physical damage and final fire damage if you're copying from the same place like me to fire and physical damage. Looks good. Excellent. Save that. All right, back over on the bomb damage collider. You know this by now. Same thing. Where we're dealing damage, we had it commented out from the last video. Insert our new take damage effect and change the variables as need be. So this one's just called character. Let's change this from character stats manager to character manager. Same thing we did in the spell damage collider. And then we're just going to pass the character.character effects manager. And we're going to check for the character.character stats manager.team ID. So it's just a lot of renaming really and moving stuff around for the sake of a much better system. And there we go, that's good. We're going to test this now in a moment to make sure everything's working. I guarantee I've missed something. Save that, no errors, cool. All right, let's go and go to our take damage effect script. Let's create asset menus up here so we can actually make these scriptable objects in the game and put them in our world character effects manager. So I've copied the asset menu from Poison. I'm just going to rename it to character effects / take damage. And then I'm going to copy this one. I'm going to go to my take blocked damage, and I'm going to paste it and change it to take blocked damage. I'm then going to create these two effects, rather, in our project, and I'm going to drag them into the world character effects manager. Make sure when you drag these in, you're saving your prefab, or rather overriding it. So the prefab will have these two effects by default. Don't ever forget to do that, otherwise you'll have a bad time if your prefab differs in your scene view from the actual project. Done that before. So I'm just going to drag this down here and save it. All right, so I'm going to jump into the take damage character effects and create a check for if the character causing damage is not equal null. Otherwise, you'll get an error if a regular object in the scene damages a character, because there's no character causing damage if there's an environmental damage effect. Now I'm going to attack this gentleman. As you can see, he's definitely getting hurt, and I can check his health is definitely going down, this dummy here. But he's not playing a damage animation. That is because I forgot to set up our poise. Right now we just have if poise is not broken, return. This is a very simple step. So under your calculate damage, right before the final step, or it doesn't really matter where to be honest, but near the end is better, we say if character.character stats manager total poise defense, I think is what we called it, yes, is less than poise damage, and we say poise is broken is equal to true, and that's it. Now it should work fine. So let's save that and we'll test it out again. So I'm back in the game here and I hit this gentleman, and yes, he goes to the left. If I hit him from the right, yes, he moves to the right. If I hit him in the front, yes, he moves to the back, and that is all working as intended. Glorious. Now if I try a block, I'm going to just attempt this to make sure it works, and we have an error. That's because I forgot to put my sound effects for blocking on my weapon, so I'm going to do that real quick. I'm just going to drag in one sound effect for the sake of the video. Drag in as many as you'd like. So down here we have blocking noises. Basically just populate this array with some noises. Now I got one here. I know you guys can't hear it, but there we go. It's good and it's playing. So there we go, and the guard break is working as well. Excellent. Alright guys, if this video helped you out, be sure to drop a like and leave a comment. It does genuinely help out the series so much. We're going to start getting into setting up a scene soon so we can do a little gauntlet, run through some enemies, and kill a boss. And from there, we're going to start polishing a lot of these functionalities that we have in the game to make it look and feel responsive. On that note too, if there's anything else you guys would like to see in this series, I would encourage you to comment below and I will cover it. I'm going to cover a few more things, but very soon I'm going to hopefully get around to starting the remastered series and jump into netcode and multiplayer. So I will see you guys in the next episode. Thanks for watching.